Hi, everyone.
Hello. In this section, Ray has to do something pretty sad, I suppose, after spending 60 years of his life in the Watchtower. He has to essentially denounce or discard the Watchtower's good news altogether, recognizing that it is essentially carnal. It's not the biblical good news. He begins that section with the constant emphasis on the idea of government undoubtedly contributes markedly to the willingness of witnesses to subject their thinking and their consciences to a religious system, to their acceptance of the imposition of a growing volume of theocratic law, numerous organizational rules and policies that must be observed. It is advantageous to such an authoritarian arrangement for congregational elders and traveling representatives to be thought of not simply as humble servants of Christ and fellow disciples, but as government representatives, empowered to administer the laws and policies of a functioning governmental system. And then he has a more detailed footnote on this point. He says this aura of impressive governmental authority is enhanced by the teaching that qualified ones among these elders, that is, elders alive now, will become princes in the new order. Jude's words about, quote, disregarding lordship and speaking abusively of glorious ones, end of quote, are also applied to anointed followers who serve faithfully as appointed Christian overseers, and to responsible men in the congregation, with warning against failure to show submission to these men as the glorious ones referred to, that is, referred to in Jude.
Corollary, no, I can never say these words.
Corollary?
Right. To this emphasis on government, the Watchtower Society, at least from and after 1935, has developed what one French writer described as a gospel of spiritual materialism. That is, an appeal to materialistic desires wrapped in spiritual terms. This is done by constant stress on the prospect of soon being able to enjoy endless material and physical benefits, with an abundance of choice food, with beautiful homes and lovely surroundings, with a return from the wrinkled weakness and pains of old age to the vibrant health, beauty, and strength of deathless youth. All this free from taxation, inflation, high costs of health and life insurance, accidents, disasters, crime, and war. No sane person would fail to find such a prospect attractive. Any politician who could convince people he could effect such a change would win immediate election in any country. But the motivation for desiring such a problem-free, materially and physically ideal life actually demands no greater spirituality, certainly no greater Christianity, than that which moved Ponce de Leon to seek the fountain of eternal youth, or for the followers of Muhammad to desire the paradise of the seventh heaven with its very earthly kind of delights.
And to which he has another footnote from the Watchtower Publications Index of 1986 to 89 under the word kingdom. And under that word are subtopics, and I'll quote them directly: blessings to earthly subjects, fatherhood of Jesus Christ in relationship with Jehovah, and spiritual prosperity are mentioned in this list, but the list generally is constituted mostly by terms such as these: babies healthy, crime ended, depression cured, deserts blossom, ecology restored, economic management, economic slavery ended, food abundant, forests restored, handicaps removed, natural forces controlled, peace with animals, pollution ended, population equilibrium, poverty ended, and so forth. The predominance of these listings reflects accurately the degree of emphasis placed on the promised satisfying of material and physical desires found in the magazines and books they refer to. And then he picks the argument up again. He says the major problem in all this is that it is a greatly altered, embroidered good news when compared with the good news that Christ's followers preached as recorded in the Christian scriptures. Their message and the language they used focused not on a government, but on a person, the person of God's Son, Christ Jesus. The expression Christ's kingdom primarily carries the meaning of Christ's reign or dominion, or Christ's kingly rule. Since God is the sovereign source of Christ's kingship, and since this is God's own arrangement, the expression, the kingdom of God, is often used as a synonym for the kingly rule of his Son.
To speak of Christ's kingdom, then, is primarily to speak of Christ's rulership. And if one keeps that in mind in reading scriptural references to the kingdom, a considerable different sense comes through from that found in the Watchtower publications. One has but to read the expressions of Christ's apostles to see that when they spoke of the kingdom, it was predominantly in that sense, which focuses on the person of the Son of God and his lordship. The expression good news of the kingdom means simply good news of Christ's rulership. And I would pay attention to this next paragraph. I think it's very well put together here. We find the expression good news more than 100 times in all the Christian scriptures. Among these, only 8 times does the expression good news of the kingdom occur. In all the other cases, the good news is either specifically stated to be the good news about the Christ, or similar expressions, or the context shows that the reference is to him, the person, not to a government.
And then he has a footnote to that about the word kingdom in the New Testament. He says the term kingdom, as found in the Christian scriptures, comes from the Greek word basileia, which does not have the modern sense of a government, which the Watchtower Society would like to give it. As the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament states, the term, quote, refers to the being or nature or state of a king, i.e. his dignity, and secondarily the expression of this in the territory he governs. The sense of dignity is primary in the Septuagint, in Philo, and in the New Testament, end of the quote. Ray says the focus is on a person, even as in Oriental lands the kingdom resided, as to power and authority, in the person of the king. Reference works as a whole combine to show that the sense is that of kingship or reign, not the idea of a governmental organization as persons today think of it. While the meaning of the term basileia may also refer to the domain in which the rulership is exercised, that sense is secondary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on the previous page, Ray had put several pictures from the 1982 publication, You Can Live Forever in Paradise on Earth. And the pictures are of typical of the appeal to physical desires, made particularly from 1935 onward by the Watchtower. So he says, unlike that proclaimed in the first century, the good news as presented by the Watchtower organization is one appealing strongly to the physical senses and desires. So the pictures are of beautiful dwellings in lovely surroundings, people of all nationalities being happy with one another, the resurrection of your dead loved ones, youthful people, everyone's happy and youthful and
even returning to their youthly handsomeness.
Yeah.
But
even though most of us thought we'd never get old and wrinkled. And
that's true too. So what's wrong with all those things? Nothing's wrong with them as if you're a person with a normal human set of needs, you're going to love all of these pictures, of course, but do any of them make the good news of the New Testament? No. And you look, as you look at the text under all of these pictures, you realize they're almost all taken from the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that it makes me think of when we first left the Witnesses, and then I was asked to come and speak at several churches, and the thing that seemed to really puzzle people was when I would say, I had no desire to go to heaven, and you'd almost hear everybody gasp in the audience, like, what? My whole heart was in this paradise earth.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I thought about and what I dreamed about and hoped for. So I believed all this. But when you talk to Christians about their faith, we kind of just made it like a cartoon thing. They just want to go to heaven and play a harp. No, for Christians, when you talk to Christians about why they want to go to heaven, it's because they're going to be with their loved one. Not loved ones like the people that have died, but because they're going to be with Christ, their King.
The one they love the most.
The one they love. That now they're going to have eternity with that person who loves them more than anyone could have loved them.
And yet you look in vain through all the color pictures in the Watchtower and this Paradise book for a picture of Jesus Christ in paradise. No. You're not with Christ nor with God.
He's always going to be distant.
And so for that reason, as you study comparative religion, you realize that the Watchtower Paradise is far more like the Muslim paradise with its sensual delights than it is like the Bible heaven, because after all, heaven itself is not our hope. If we're Christians, the ultimate hope is a bodily life. It's not a airy-fairy life like you imagine if you're a witness that Christians believe, but they don't. Well, some do, to be fair. Yeah. Some do. But the hope as held out in the New Testament is a bodily resurrection to kingdom in the future, but no separation from Christ, no separation from the loved one.
Yeah, when you talk to committed Christians, Christ is their King now. They're not even thinking so much just the future. He is the one they're following right now, so he plays a part in their day-to-day living. The way they live, they read the scriptures in the hopes of acquiring the qualities that he promotes. They want to imitate him.
Even in the Old Testament, in Isaiah again, which is their favorite set of proof texts about paradise, you have Christ called the Everlasting Father, which is not to say he's the same as God the Father, but he becomes the father of the human race. So he's the head of the family, the human family, instead of Adam, who was the first Adam, and he's the last Adam. So we're going to put on your screen videos we did about the difference between unity. The Watchtower's definition of unity is more like uniformity, and how that contrasts with the oneness that Christians experience according to Ephesians 4. Christian oneness is not unity or uniformity. It's not a set of beliefs, and it's certainly not a government under a government or an organization. It's a oneness with Christ and with each other as community. And another video on Kingdom Now, where Christ puts to rest forever the notion that the hope of Christians is in the now. And for Jehovah's Witnesses, not alone in this, the prosperity gospel too, kingdom is now.
Yeah, it's just another twist on prosperity gospel.
Yes, it is. And it's always, if not exactly now, it's just around the corner while you're still young.
It caters to your selfish desires rather than your spiritual needs in change of character and personality, and it caters to, I want to get all the things that I can't have because life is miserable here.
Next time, the foundation and essence of the true good news.